Mike, mate, welcome back. No mai, haere mai. It is so good to have you back in Aotearoa after 10 years away. It's been a while since we caught up in Boston, man. What's been going on?
Yeah, it was the last time I ran into you was in Boston. Strangely in backstage. Hi, Westie. How are you? Good. Just been on this World Dark Matter tour, and we're excited to be back here because we have not been here for a little while, and it takes us a lot to kind of we do a lot of different touring in a lot of different places, and so we feel like we haven't been here for a long time, so we had to get back here. So, I'm happy we're here.
Yeah, we were having a chat off air. The last time you were here was the 2014 Big Day Out, and I touched on it in Boston about how Jeff Ament picked up a basketball game and broke someone's nose and then gave him tickets to the show.
I believe that, yeah.
Yep, and I asked you about what giving someone tickets to a Pearl Jam show has gotten you out of, and you said get you a good table at a restaurant, and also it's, you got pulled over once and you'd been enjoying some of the finest herbs, which you no longer do.
Yeah, I did back then, though.
And you got out of a ticket.
Strangely enough, I got out of it. We were all smoking a lot of pot in this car driving up to Vancouver, and got pulled over and somehow got out of it.
Now in Boston at Fenway Park. Do you know what? I don't know that New Zealand police would be that relaxed here about that, but then again, I'm not a guitarist in a rock band, so that doesn't bode well for me. That doesn't work well in my favour. When we were in Boston, Fenway Park, Ed announced that he'd been smoking joints or eating gummies in the general manager's office all night. I want to know, is that kind of behaviour a little, I don't want to say weird or odd, but is that typical behaviour? Because what I want to know is, what is a typical show day like for you, for Mike McCready?
For me, it's definitely not that exciting. But I'll get up and I'll hopefully have an idea of what kind of songs we'll be doing, and I'll go over mostly every song in the hotel room, and then we'll get to the gig, and then we'll kind of figure out, hopefully Ed will have a set list by that time, which will be like 4:00 or something, and then we'll know a little bit better what other songs besides Dark Matter stuff we're doing, and we'll go over there. So I'm kind of consciously thinking about the songs we're going to play all night, that all day that night.
Is it nerve-wracking?
It is a little bit if you don't get the set list till. Yeah, it's mostly like the weird songs. Like if we do some strange B-sides that we haven't done for a while, and I want to really have time to go over those, you know, just for my own brain, because there's always It may not work if you don't do that.
No,
so.
I absolutely get that.
But I also try to cruise around the town and check it out. I get a vibe of the town, and that's important to me, to like walk around Auckland and go, oh, this is what this is, and and get to the vibe of the people and coffee shops, and so that's big for me.
We have got some great coffee here in Aotearoa. Look, let's play a song. We'll touch on some of the rarities and B-sides that have been included in so far in this year's Dark Matter World Tour. In particular, a couple that were debuted at Ohana Fest. I know you know what I'm talking about, and we'll jump into that next. It is the brand new one from Jack White. That's How I'm Feeling, here on The Rock with Westie Lee and Mike McCready. Now, you're a big fan of Jack White.
I love Jack White. Yeah. I love him. He's I've been able to be kind of a friend of his, and over the years, and he's been very cool to me and my family, and we got to hang out with him at his house, and I think he's a genius, and I look at him as, okay, you can play guitar, you can play drums, you can sing, you can play everything, and you're good at and really great at all of it, whatever it is, the Raconteurs or Dead Weather, playing drums in Dead Weather. We played a show with those guys one time, and I think it was in Austin, and it was really fun to watch them play. But I just admire Jack White in terms of his songwriting ability and how many. I actually interviewed him one time, and I was like, how many are you cloned? How do you do all of these things that you do and run a record label, and how does he do it all? So I'm fascinated by him.
He's a superhuman human being.
Yeah.
Now, I touched on it earlier, some of the rarities and B-sides that you guys include in your sets. Now, for me, the standout thing about a Pearl Jam show is the fact that no two sets are the same.
Yeah.
And like you said, often the set lists aren't completed until very close to doors and stage, which would be incredibly unnerving should you not know what you're playing.
Yep.
You debuted 2 songs at Ohana Festival that had not been played live anywhere, Whale Song and Grimmy Out of Control, with Stone up there. Stone screaming Cowabunga.
Oh my God,
might just be my favourite thing in the world.
It was pretty funny. He was really getting into it. He was just putting his hands in the air
and
running around.
Man.
He was so into it. Like, I think he's maybe thinking of a second career now.
Wow.
But that, yeah, doing Grammy was fun because we had our old producer Brendan O'Brien up there playing.
Come out to join you, yeah.
Who knew how to play all the songs, and he always knows. He's a phenomenal guitar player in his own right. Like blows Stone and myself away, and so it's fun to have him around. And you're just kind of, and he's done so many records with us, from Versus, to Yield, to all the way through there. So it was great to see him again. And then we did the Whale song, and Jack Irons, who was our former drummer at one time, his son Zach, who's a great guitar player, oh my God, my brain is going out. He's in AWOL Nation.
Sail, great song,
Here's a quick tie-in. So I had a metal band called Shadow in the early '80s, and the manager of AWOL Nation is named Burko, and he was the singer of our metal band, and we went to kindergarten together. So there's a tie-in there. Anyways, but Zach was there, and he wanted to play. Jack has recently had some kind of health issues, so we love him dearly, and we love his son, Zach's a phenomenal guitar player in his own right. Yeah. So he came up and played too.
Is there a song on the set list topic that you just can't wait to rip into every night, or that you hope that's there? So when you get that set list down from Ed, you look at it and you go, thank God we're playing this.
Well, I mean, I love playing Black. I love playing Even Flow, because like I get to kind of show off, or I get to do. That's kind of my part in the set is to do the solos in that, and I get to experiment every night on those, and that's exciting for me. So I don't do the same thing every night. Those old ones are fun. Playing the song Dark Matter now is really fun. That's a great rocker live. Waiting for Stevie is a fun one to play. There's a myriad of them. Those are the top ones off my head right now. But
fantastic. All right, well,
first and last record. So that was it. Yeah,
mate. Do you know what? Yeah. Just as we go into this next song, I can tell you right now that Dark Matter for me really stands up, man, as some of your best.
Thank you.
Like holy shit, I take my kids to school every morning, and my 3-year-old gal Layla always says to me, "We have to play 2 songs on the way to dropping her off to school." She says, "Dad, play the special song." I'm a girl dad, so it's something special, incredibly, amazingly beautiful for me. And a song that she calls To React, which is React Respond, and she screams it.
No way.
To React! Respond! It's fantastic. It's good.
Awesome.
All right, we'll climb into some of the Dark Matter stuff with Mike McCready very shortly. Pearl Jam, Even Flow on The Rock with Westie Lee, and Mike McCready from Pearl Jam in studio, co-hosting with me for the hour. Again, mate, what an absolute pleasure it is to have you back in our beautiful country. It has been quite some time, and the reason you are back is because your 12th studio album, Dark Matter, dropped earlier this year, and it is, as all the cool kids are saying, just straight fire. Like, there's not a song on there that, and I wouldn't say this just because you're in the room. If there was a song on there that I wasn't a fan on, I would absolutely say, oh, I don't know about the one, don't know about this one.
Yeah.
But they are all just the tits. Like,
yeah.
It's really good stuff.
Thank you.
Writing this album after Gigaton, because Gigaton took quite a while between from Gigaton and Lightning Bolt. Of course, COVID happened and ruined everyone's lives for a while.
Right.
What was different about writing this album other than working with the genius Andrew Watt?
So this one was a lot quicker than and more immediate than Gigaton was. Gigaton, like you said, took a long time. Took about 4 or 5 years to do that record because we were doing it ourselves with our own producer Josh Evans, who's great in his own right. But getting us all in a room together is really an interesting feat of, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Andrew was very full of infectious, kind of exciting energy. He's a young guy who's a big fan of the band, and really is, and he knows all about it. And he wanted us to come down with kind of no ideas and just make everything up on the spot. And we kind of did that. And he was just jumping up and down and going crazy, and Matt Cameron, you're the greatest drummer I've ever seen. He's just in your face.
Yeah.
And he's intense. But in a very genuine way. And he knows how to play guitar great. He knows how to get great sounds really quick. And he doesn't mess around. So that we just jumped on his train and went, okay, let's try this.
Let's do it. Let's roll with it. Is there a song or an idea on that album that you brought to the table that you're really glad didn't end up on the cutting room floor? Or something that you're immensely proud of on Dark Matter?
On the song Dark Matter, I came up with the bridge for it, the da 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 da, that part. So I'm happy that I got to get my 2 cents in on that song because I really love that. I love the drums on that song. I love how kind of how heavy it is, and it's fun to play. So I'd say, I came up the bridge there, and a couple of the leads on there have been pretty fun to write. Upper Hand, the first one on that is pretty great. I really like playing that one. So wanted to kind of do a David Gilmour type thing on that. So those two right off the top of my head.
Mate, fantastic. Working with Andrew Watt, I said, to quote you here, and it's a good quote, that working with Andrew Watt was quite the experience, that he did push you guys to play as best you could, and you said it's hard for us to listen to other people because you constantly have so many ideas yourselves.
Yeah, we've been blessed with always having too many ideas, and that's blessed or cursed, however you looked at it. But I would say blessed. In terms of older records, we generally come in with 5 to 8 songs a piece with ideas, and and then Ed's got to sift through them and go, I like this one I'm not into, this one, so you have to kind of be ready to, if you're really into something that you wrote, be ready to not play it because it might not work, it may not transfer to everyone in the band, but when it does, the spark of that turns into what Pearl Jam is in terms of music. So, which is a mass collaborative effort. Yeah, I mean, yes, it is. It's all of us together. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, guitar solos.
Yeah.
So, where do you go when you go to that place? as we're coming in to the even flow guitar solo, do you know, I didn't expect anything less from you, to be perfectly fair, because it looks out of worldly, and it's just. If you haven't seen Mike McCready shred in a guitar solo, it is worth the ticket price alone to go in, even if you just walked into Go Media Stadium on Friday or Sunday to see you play one guitar solo.
Come out and do that. Just one, and you can split.
I'll shout
I would say, I go when I have my head in the sky and I'm looking up and I'm not thinking about anything and I'm just kind of feeling everything. That's when it's the best, and that happens in even flow and that happens in black. If I try to make that happen and force it, it just seems technical and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, and that's generally when I do leads throughout our whole career, it's either the first or second one throughout any of the records. After that, I start thinking about it, and it just becomes like mathematical to me and like less feeling oriented. Yeah. It's got to come from your soul or from somewhere outside of me. And I think, for lack of a better term, I think I channel it sometimes, but I can't force that to happen. It just has to happen, Westie. It just has to happen with the combination of the crowd and the band firing on all cylinders and how I'm feeling. It's all these kind of a lot of the elements go into it, and then there's the X factor. And why does that happen? I don't know. Well, but it's the best when it does.
Yeah. Oh,
for me it does. That's my favorite time.
For everyone in attendance, mate. Oh. An absolute highlight for me at the Fenway Park show. How much does it mean to you looking out at the crowds and knowing that some of these people that have been there, that are there to see you, have been there seeing you for the last 30 odd years? Yeah.
That blows my mind. It's you see people that have had their signs and they say, this is my 150th show or this is my 75th show. And, we don't take that lightly, and we're very aware of people's time and respect that. In fact, people bring their families on the road to come see us, and I don't know how they can afford to do it, and I appreciate that they do it. It really warms my heart. It makes me realize that it's important to them, the music, and that makes you want to play better, So it's really wild to see generational things happening with our band. We have, grandpas and grandmas to kids to, teenagers to whatever. And it happens over the last 30 years. And we're all aware of that and are very stoked that happened, because that doesn't happen a lot, to be able to have a career that long, we still kind of look at each other and go, what? We're still together. How did that happen? How did we not, so that's exciting.
I'm bringing my kids to the show on the 10th.
And you have 2.
I've got 2. Lucy and Albie are coming with me, my 12-year-old and 10-year-old. We'll leave the 3-year-old at home. Oh, we'll leave her in the car with the window rolled down a bit outside the stadium. She'll be
always
fine.
Roll the window down.
She'll be sweet. But, mate, they're really excited. And I talked to you briefly about it at Fenway, about how awesome it is to see these generations of fans coming through. And you said that it's a dream for any musician to, first of all, be able to play and to make great music, but to have those generational fans coming through, and it's I don't think it's lost on anyone at all.
Yeah, to have that again, to have young kids there singing alive, or or it meaning something to them when you don't expect that. like, wow, there's a whole other generation that is kind of learning about us or is interested in taking the time to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that in this kind of day and age when everything is so digital and so on your phone and, you know, it's so fast, if they can come to a rock show and kind of enjoy it for a little while and maybe not on their phones, and they probably are, but we love it, you know, and we love the fact that people have seen us 150 times. It's like it could be your first time or your 150th time, and we're respectful of both of those things.
Absolutely. So to the people out there that are listening to you here, Mike McCready, the ones that are coming to the shows on the 8th and 10th of November, shit, this isn't like 2 days. If you do not have your tickets, you need to get them. Text the keyword Pearl right now to 3520. Mike, look into this camera here. Give us your biggest puppy dog eyes. For the love of God, Jesus, we have a living legend in the goddamn studio.
Come to the show.
If you don't have your Pearl Jam tickets, I will personally find out where you live and give you a big wee hug because there's definitely something wrong with you. But what would a Pearl Jam show summed up into a couple of sentences be like as an experience?
I mean, I would hope it's cathartic. I would hope it's, you know, exciting, and I would hope it's, you know, people would have a great time, and it's a communal experience. People all kind of take care of each other at the shows, and everybody's singing every song, and you could be part of all of that, and it's just an exciting communal, amazing experience in my mind.
10 years has passed since your last shows here, which was the Big Day Out tour.
Yeah.
And as far as the Big Day Out goes, it's no longer a thing,
right?
Which is a real shame because it's a rite of passage for Kiwis and Australians growing up.
Yeah.
I don't remember there ever not being a Big Day Out. My first ever Big Day Out was 2004 and it was Metallica. And it just seems now that it's no longer feasible to put on these massive lineups because you'd have to charge people these days Fire Festival prices
right.
for this kind of shit. But is there something from your childhood, like a festival that you recall, almost like a rite of passage musically growing up for you? You have to go and see this band, or
I mean, in terms of festivals, they weren't that huge back when I was growing up. But there was one in Seattle called Bumbershoot that I would go to every year, and it was free, and then it became $5, and it was $20, and it kind of grew over the years. And you know, I got to see so many cool bands that way growing up. I saw Hart, I saw Chuck Berry, I saw Buddy Guy play, one of my favorite guitar players, Etta James sing. There's been Soundgarden played there early on. Gosh, there's been so much, but that was a big deal. And then, you know, of course, Lollapalooza when we got on that in '92 was really exciting. And I think that, you know, there's a glut of too many festivals now, and I'm not sure why you don't have them here anymore. But do you have them in other forums?
We still have festivals.
Yeah.
It's just that there doesn't really seem to be anything major catering for the rock enthusiast. There was the last rock festival that I went to was a festival called Storm the Gates, and it was run just down the road from me in West Auckland, and there was Suicidal Tendencies, Head PE, Sublime were there with Rome, and Limp Bizkit headlined.
Right.
And that was quite cool. It was an indoor kind of gig, which was sweet. But the Big Day Out really catered for a lot of rock fans. You know,
right.
there doesn't really seem to be anything like that.
I mean, is it just a different landscape now? They're different.
I reckon it's just too expensive, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, people aren't spending money as it is.
Yeah.
And if you're, I mean, to be fair, I'd remortgage the house to go on a Big Day Out lineup. Imagine the Big Day Out lineup nowadays. But all the other festivals, a lot of electronica, a lot of drum and bass, a lot of house, a lot of doof, boots and cats kind of shit. Not up my alley at all. I like my music with anything that's rock and roll.
Yeah, me too.
To quote Tom Petty, one of my other favourite Floridians.
Right.
So let's talk about Tom Petty while we're here. You guys, your CD Live at the Gorge, which is a fucking awesome.
Yeah, that was
awesome.
A fun show.
Six disc concert set over 3 nights at the Gorge Amphitheatre in Washington. And there was a time where in one of the songs Tom Petty had played the night before or was playing after you, and
the next day,
a
couple days later,
and you were taunting him with the crowd, and I think the chant was "Hello, Tom."
Yeah,
trying to get him to come down, Tom. He doesn't look. He's too long in the tooth to be getting up at that time of the night.
He was probably there. They were up. I know because Ed was saying that, and the place where you stayed stay is right on the top of the gorge up there, and we assumed he was there and wanted him to come down. And Tom Petty, I got to meet him originally when Ed and I played. This was a long time ago for Bob Dylan's 50th birthday.
Wow.
At Madison Square Garden, and I kind of got to know him a little well, and he sent me a guitar that I still have, which was really cool. And I got to jam at his house one time, and he played drums. I've had a lot of cool experiences with him. I didn't know he played drums, and there's more to that story than that. But he's one of my favorite singer-songwriters of all time, and he knows how to make something sound simple, but it's not. And he was just Insider is a beautiful song. I could go on forever on how many great songs that he's done.
I heard one journalist sum him up.
He never came down, though, by the way, at that show. We wanted him to, but he had a show the next couple of days.
Yeah,
I get it.
He was working. You tried someone waking you up at 3 in the morning.
I'd be pissed. Yeah, I'd be pissed.
I heard someone say, I think it might even have been Rick Rubin, saying that Tom Petty is one of the true great American songwriters in the fact that he knows how to write a song and have you hooked. Some of the greatest opening lines to songs ever, which is just...
He's right. He does, and that's it. It sounds like that would be simple, and it's not, though. Tom Petty just knows how to write hooks and write great lyrics, and I'm sad that he's gone.
Yeah,
and Mike Campbell, another great guitar player who's very underrated.
Incredibly underrated.
Incredibly
Mike Campbell.
great guitar player himself.
Something that we have in common, Mike, is our love for vinyl.
Yes.
For LPs, for records. And what I love about you is that you are a real searcher when it comes for digging through record. Like, you'll go fucking deep into those crates, man.
It's very meditative.
What have you found recently? What have been some of the scores, some of the gold mines that you've dug out of some stuff?
Just yesterday at Real Groovy Records, I was just happening to go there, which is such a cool store. I've not been there before. And I was just thumbing through all the sections and going through all my classic rock things, but I found the first 4 U2 records, New Zealand pressings.
Oh, wow.
And used. And I oddly enough, I don't have those first records, and I saw them on the War Tour. So I've been a fan of theirs for a long, long time. So I bought all 4 of those, and I was pretty excited. There's something else I want there too. It's a Joy Division thing, but it's a little expensive, so I may not go back and get it. But I'll probably end up going back there because there's so many cool records at the Real Groovy. So
it's so easy to get lost in there.
It's a fun thing. That's my favorite thing, is to get lost in that.
Just absolutely consumes you.
Yeah.
What's the one thing when you're on tour that's not necessarily a rider request, but what's one thing that you will have present in your dressing room for every kind of show? Is there something that's important to you, something that's special to you, maybe a little slice of home?
It's going to sound silly, but it's pretzels or, like
Mate, I
stuff like that is, any kind of, some chips, coconut water is important, coffee always, and tea now more.
We've just shared a delicious English breakfast.
Thank you,
tea,
and it's
mate.
fantastic. Cheers.
Yeah. Hey, cheers.
So, just kind of the staples that you need backstage eating, chocolates.
Just want some food.
Yeah. We're kind of boring back there, honestly.
Well, when I got walked through Red Sox dugout in Fenway, Smitty took us into the big dressing room.
Okay.
And we sat down, and I was with the Australian press, and I was looking around, and I was like, I don't fucking think we're supposed to be here. And they were like, nah, mate, this is how it goes. You can come in, you sit down in here, someone will come in and take us out one by one. And then Pete came in and looked around and was like, hey, you're not fucking supposed to be in here.
Oh, wow.
He's like,
okay.
Who brought you in here? Let me guess. Smitty? We're like, yeah. He's like, nah, come with me. But I was sitting there looking.
Which one were you in? Were you in ours?
Okay. The big one with all of the different individual fridges, the fruit bowls. There was,
okay, all right.
Guitar stacks. Like it was, and I knew straight away, I was like, man, we're not supposed to be in here. Saw some signed posters on the table, and I was like, man, if I was
in the deep inner sanctum.
If I was a less better, if I was a real shit person, I'd have grabbed those posters and laid a bowl.
Well, there you go.
But look, I wanted to touch briefly. When you came into the studio, we've got in our office a bunch of big white frames that have very prominent rock musicians. One of them, Chris Cornell, very sadly no longer with us. You've been fortunate enough to play with him and to call him a friend. And I just want to take your mind back to something that Chris Cornell said about you, about your guitar playing, especially your solos, and in particular on the Temple of the Dog song, Reach Down. He said, and I'm quoting the late, great Chris Cornell here, he can actually fucking play. He went out of his mind. This guy's a fucking rock star. Like, he's got problems. We just thought he was this nice little kid, but he's got something in there. It's like he's infected, and that's going to come out again somewhere. Like, good luck, guys. Does that still ring true for you? And we touched on it briefly in the chat we had before, but when you are in the zone, personally, I want to know, how fucking difficult is it to play the guitar behind your head?
Oh my gosh! Well, I probably spent many years, I won't say it on the air, practicing that in a mirror, maybe. But as a young man, but it's hard, and then it's not. It's just kind of you do it. And but in terms of what Chris said, I'm very touched and flattered that he said that. Chris was, I loved him dearly, and he was the guy that brought me in on Temple, and that was my first kind of big experience in the world of rock, and allowed me to play the solos on all those songs, those amazing songs that he wrote. And specifically Reach Down, I recall, I went into Temple the Dog very not necessarily nervous, but wanting to be respectful of the situation, because it was a situation where Andy Wood had died from Mother Love Bone. Yeah. And all of a sudden I have this chance to be in a band kind of because that, so I'm in there, just kind of all of that stuff's going through my head. So I'm gonna play, but I'm gonna be cautious. Yeah. So I was cautiously doing a solo the first time, and Chris was like, "I think you can do better. I'm gonna go outside and have a cigarette and come back." And I was like, "Okay." And that kind of gave me the green light. And then I just did that solo that's on Reach Down in one take, and I do that thing you talk about. I was looking up in the air and channeling, and my headphones came off, and it was finished, and that's what was on there. So, Chris encouraged me to do that, and I was lucky. We got to do some more Temple shows with him right before he passed, and I will always love him and miss him. Yeah. Yeah. And we were playing Patience earlier. Yes. The version of
the Guns N' Roses.
Duff's a great friend of mine. We went to high school together. So anyways, I was hearing his voice in the background while you were asking me questions, and I was kind of torn, going, "Oh yeah, Chris," and so. But thank you for asking about that.
No, dude, you're most welcome. Yeah. On that note, something that people might not know about you is that you're working on, or maybe close to completing, a Chris Cornell rock opera of sorts.
Well, it's not only on him, so that's I want to make sure that
it's on the whole kind of scene, correct?
Yeah, it's about my experiences kind of in the front row of the music scene that came up in Seattle in the 90s, and in the late 80s. Because we were all very young kids when this all started. I started playing guitar when I was 11 and 12, and I was in bands. This band called Shadow I was telling you about earlier, and we played all over the Northwest kind of before all the grunge things happened in 81, 82, 83, and a lot of bands did that. Green River, we played a show with Green River. They're obviously, everybody knows about that history of those guys, but it was a very small scene. We all went to each other's parties, the punk guys, the metal guys, girls too, and we all knew each other. So in terms of we all kind of supported each other in a way. There was a competition, there's a healthy competition. Yeah. But it was also like, well, we'll all go to each other's shows because it's so hard to put shows on in Seattle. They're very, very restrictive on what you could do. You had to, if you were under 21, which we all were, you couldn't play in any bars there. So you had to put on your own shows, which meant if you wanted to do it legally, you had to get $1 million insurance policy. You had to rent an off-duty cop. And you had there's all these hoops you had to jump through. And so sometimes you did that, and sometimes you just played shows at people's houses or at the Frontier Room or these places that made us very do-it-yourself. So in terms of, there's that aspect of it that blew up into what Seattle turned out to, which nobody saw coming.
No.
Nobody saw that coming. And so I want to explore that in this. I've written a bunch of songs about it, and I've got a script, and it's just kind of it's based on what happened, there's characters, the names have changed to protect
for sure.
whatever, but I'm kind of in the middle right now. I'll probably spend more time on it next year when we're not on tour. So
such a massive influence was, if you call it the Seattle grunge scene, or whatever you want to label it. Like for me, that's the pinnacle for me and my era and my generation. I could not imagine life without Green River, Mad Season, Shadow, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Nirvana. Like it's just it's unfathomable to me to find myself in a reality where that doesn't exist for me. What was your Seattle grunge scene as a kid? What musically shaped you into what you are?
Well,
today?
Seattle, historically, it was kind of overlooked. So we always had a little chip on our shoulders as kids because, you know, a really big band would come, it would be Judas Priest maybe, and they would play at Portland, then they'd skip Seattle and go to Vancouver. We were kind of the skipped over place a lot of times. So we were like, okay, we got to do this ourselves. You know, we weren't really saying that, but it made us want it more because you couldn't see it. So me growing up, we knew of Heart. They were a band that made it. They were from Seattle. They didn't necessarily make it there. You know, Hendrix, of course. There were a lot of local kind of power pop scene that was going on in the 80s, a band called The Heats. That was a really good band. It was more power pop. Like hard rock wasn't happening, and you couldn't, again, you had to put on your own shows.
Yeah.
So I think it has something to do with the crappy weather. We all were inside all the time. It's very dirgy and dark, at certain times of the year. So the music reflected that.
Yeah.
But we all worked very hard at it, in terms of, Jeff had his day jobs. We practiced Shadow. We would practice every day for 5 years or 6, whatever it was, or 5 days out of the week. So we all put a lot of time in. So that was important too. I'm hoping that's answering your question.
No, absolutely.
But it was a very much of a thing that we all wanted, but never thought we would ever achieve it.
I think what's beautiful, what stands out to me about how Seattle rock, or whatever you want to call it, came about, is the fact that everywhere else was just so backbitey and so cutthroat.
Right.
And instead of saying, fucking Soundgarden are playing tonight, well, we're playing on Sunday, we're not going to go and see them, we want people to come to our show, everyone thought, you know what, fuck this, let's all go together, let's join together. And it was almost something that people hadn't seen before. They're like, hang on a second, these guys are all destined for great things.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, I'm going to use you as a leg up, or I'm not going to do this for you, or you're not going to do this for me, you're all working together, which just culminated in this fucking phenomenal scene and is responsible for the soundtrack to so many people's lives. It's beautiful.
Well, I think that you captured what it was like for sure. And I'm going to tell you a story that I talked to Johnny Ramone one time, and the late great Johnny Ramone, and he was like, "You guys in Seattle are all too nice. We were trying to fuck everybody over all the time," and like this, and so that was the mentality of the New York scene and the scene that I looked up to.
Yeah.
And we weren't that way, and then so when we were first Mookie Blaylock or whatever, when we were trying to become a band, we went out with Alice in Chains. So we opened up for them. They took us out, as they used to open up for Mother Love Bone prior to that. So we all kind of supported each other, again, because it was such a small scene. It was really a small provincial town. Boeing was the only big industry. Before that was lumber. And then now, there wasn't a Microsoft. There wasn't the giant city that is now. So
Twilight movies weren't a thing.
that wasn't out there yet.
Goddamn
Forks.
sparkly vampires making us all look bad.
I know.
Yeah.
Very sexy vampires.
Oh,
for
bless.
sure.
Hey, Mike, well, look, do you know what, mate? I will. I know you've got a lot on, so I'll wrap it up here. What I do have here, actually, mate, and it's just a quick nice little thank you for you here, mate. This is...
You are giving me things all the time, Westie. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you know what? I actually had a company down in Ototahi, Christchurch, called Moko Pounamu.
Okay.
Are you familiar with what Pounamu is?
No, please tell me.
Pounamu is this, which is a jade greenstone. Now, it's very special, very significant. It's not the kind of thing, the jewelry that you can buy for yourself.
Yeah.
It has to be bestowed upon you by somebody.
Awesome.
Again, like the waiata I gave you in Boston, at a time of significance. So
Yep.
I have had 5 beautiful, I'm just going to swing around this side, 5 beautiful Tuki Pounamus crafted, all from the same block of stone, which
Awesome.
is so rare and incredibly special, which ties you and the rest of the band together, not only through your music, but through now your connection, your ongoing connection with New Zealand and what these Tuki carvings represent. So these are worn as a symbol of strength, and they were wielded by fearsome Maori warriors, and they're kind of a throwback to when axes were used, Pounamu axes were used and whatnot. So it is steeped in significance and Maori tradition. And I mentioned axes, and you are an axe man, so I have this for you, Mr. Mike McCready. I have one for Mike, Matt, Jeff, Ed, and Stone as well. This for you, Mr. Mike McCready, is...
Wow.
Yeah, it's a hefty piece. The team at Moko Pounamu...
So cool.
In Ototahi, Christchurch have, but mate, this is for you, and what an unbelievably special
so cool. Thank you.
man and person you are.
Beautiful.
Look at
Wow.
that. Yeah, so they've all been carved from the same piece of stone, which
so
is,
cool.
there's a lot of information in here as to what it is and how it goes. But
Thank
yeah.
you for bestowing it upon me.
You are
I dig
most,
it. Yeah.
mate, it's my absolute pleasure. Again, you've given me enough. I reckon it's about time I gave something back.
Thank you for doing that. It's
No,
unexpected, so.
my absolute pleasure. So this is for you to have here. But yeah, anyway, look, thank you so much for joining me here in studio, and I will see you. I will see you at your shows on the 8th and 10th of November. Again, hoping for the rail. So if you look down and you see a big man in a Pearl Jam
I'm gonna
dress,
throw a bunch of pics at you.
there you go. Happy
If I
days.
see you
I'll
down
catch
there.
him. Hey, bless you, mate. And again,
I did
what a special time. Thank you, mate.
Thank you. Thanks, Westie. I appreciate it. It was fun.